Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be making a Youmuu'S Toplane Tierlist. So if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, I have selected a bunch of champs for the D tier. These champs don't really have any use cases of the item. Either their AD ratios are too low, they don't utilize lethality that well, or the active doesn't do a lot for them. So moving on to the C tier, Sion is going to be my first champ in the C tier. He is a user of this item if you're opting into the lethality Sion build. Now that he's lost Prowler's Claw, however, it does make going lethality Sion nowhere near as viable. It was struggling to be viable after the passive changes to Sion, but now even more it's struggling. So in general, I wouldn't recommend this item, but as Sion's core lethality mythic is Youmuu's now, there is a level of use there. Set can utilize this item. He has good AD ratios. He does do a lot of raw damage. If you're opting into something like lethality Set, where you're really putting a lot of value into his Q, his ult, stuff like this, then there are cases where you can use this item. I wouldn't recommend it. You're definitely going to want to go something like Stride Breaker, but there is options there. Nasus is going to be my next champion. Nasus can use this item if he's going the Essence Reaver one-shot build. You won't really see this anywhere other than like montages or low elo, so it's got a level of use, but it's still not great. The next champ is Poppy. Poppy can use this item. There was once a time where you could go lethality Poppy. That was more of a jungle thing where you go like Collector. You'd value like heavily or high AD items, but as of the moment, you don't really see that anymore. You tend to just go like your Frostfires, your Divine Cinders. You can even go things like Jack Show. So overall, item can function, just not great. Olaf, bit more of he can use the item. He has decent amounts of AD damage. He has good AD ratios. He can utilize lethality, but you like crit Olaf, you're not really gonna go this build. But crit Olaf is more viable than this. But yeah, there are still still places where you can play this. Varus, lethality Varus has been in the bot lane for a long time. It is his best mythic, I'm pretty sure. Youmuu's. But that you can of course go Duskblade. In the top lane though, you're mainly going to see either On Hit or Philippe. Philippe is standard for solo lane Varus most of the time. Volibear, there have been cases where you can go lethality Volibear. His Q has a good AD ratio on it. He in general has good AD ratios, but he tends to be very vulnerable if you opt into full lethality, which is why you only really see like Tank or Bruiser Volibear. Synergizes well with Titanic, which is why you can kind of go it. But for lethality, you'll probably just end up going something like Youmuu'S Collector and then like around like down that path, pick up something like an Edge of Night, stuff like that. Trundle, the only other chap in my C tier. Trundle can use this item if you're looking for just a very high DPS build. He will perform a lot better with Sheen items, so Ice Spawn, Divine Cinder, or Triforce, all really good options on him. But you can use it. It has a level of use. Going into the next tier, Udyr is a B tier Youmuu's user. He is strongest with Triforce at the moment, but you can go lethality Udyr. It's nowhere near as good as the old Prowler's Udyr, where you could get like really strong one-shots with the Q, but Udyr still works really well with lethality, and he still does a lot of damage, so it is something that can work there. Kayn, this is his most standard mythic in the top lane. You often see Droot go this quite a significant amount of times, but there are other options, and I think the other options just perform a bit better than Youmuu's. I think after the Youmuu's nerfs, it's now no longer Kayn's best mythic, and he should probably go into other options, things like Eclipse, Duskblade, Gordrink if you're going something like Red Kayn. All these work quite well. Wukong, lethality Wukong has existed in the past. He still can exist to a certain extent. Getting that AD ratio increase on his R definitely helped. If you're building a lot of AD, then Wukong can work with lethality. Good damage, really powerful Q, can work, more matchup dependent though, probably better in the mid lane, but overall definitely options there. Akshan can use Youmuu's. He does perform a bit better with things like IE and Gale Force at the moment, but there is options to go Youmuu's. I'm pretty sure it's performs on a similar level to Ginsu's, or it performs slightly better but has just a decent amount less play rate. Vayne. Essence Reaver Vayne has definitely been more popular recently. Ginsu still is her standard mythic, but things like IE and Gale Force and Youmuu's all can work on Vayne. They might even be better than Ginsu's after the changes, but it's just not a huge amount of data on them. But yeah, you're going to be going something like the PTA, Essence Reaver, Youmuu's BT build if you're going into something along those lines. Gangplank is going to be in my B tier as well. Gangplank can utilize lethality items. He tends to go Essence Reaver first, and then you could go something like Youmuu's Collector, kind of similar to the old Prowler's Gangplank build, but with Navori being a mythic now, you can just go Essence Reaver, Navori, Collector, stuff like this, and he tends to be a bit stronger with this build. So there is an option there, just better with Navori at the moment. Aatrox performs quite well with this item. Even Shroud, Gore Drinker, Stride Breaker, the other one, Eclipse, all perform quite well on him as well. Youmuu's, I'm pretty sure, has the highest win rate, but by far away the slowest sample size. Aatrox does pair quite nicely with lethality. He has good AD ratios. When Aatrox was at his strongest, Eclipse was really good on him, and that was when Eclipse gave both Omnivamp and a lot of raw damage. Of course, Eclipse losing his Omnivamp, it ended up being a bit weaker, but now he can utilize both items quite well, as they both have fairly similar like base stat lines, lots of damage, lethality, things that Aatrox likes. Rengar is going to be my first champ in the A tier. Rengar abuses this item quite well. He's not in my S tier because there are other contending items. Things like Duskblade, definitely a lot better now. Eclipse functions on Rengar. You can go Triforce. There are spaces where you can go Divine Cinderer, but after its nerfs, I would definitely recommend Triforce over Divine Cinderer. Quinn utilizes this item very well. Crit Quinn still works, but Youmuu's Quinn quite good at the moment. Things like Collector work quite nicely on Quinn, and just being able to chase, have a lot of mobility within fights, and do a lot of upfront damage for burst. You can run things like Electrocute with it. Makes her quite strong. Kled. This might be Kled's best mythic by a landslide. We just don't know at the moment because there isn't a lot of game sample size. If there were more games, I would be able to like very much certainly say if it's his best or not. But I think Ravenous into Youmuu's might be really good on Kled, but we don't have a lot of games, so it's really hard to tell. Ravenous into Eclipse was what Kled's core build was for a while, but with the introduction of Youmuu's might fill the similar kind of role as Eclipse, as like a strong AD lethality option, but just have more synergies with Kled because it allows them to chase, gives them a lot more DPS. In general, there might be room for lethality for Youmuu's Kled being really strong. I got really good abuser of this item. Even after the nerfs, he still operates quite well with this item. It kind of contends with his Radiant kind of supportive build, but if you're being more selfish and you're in lower elos, then yeah, you can opt into the Youmuu's build. Works quite nicely. Pantheon contends with Eclipse on this item. I still prefer Eclipse Pantheon, especially with Bork and PTA, but you can go Youmuu's Pantheon. There are also spaces where you can go Gore Drinker, but I definitely recommend taking a lethality mythic on Pantheon. He spikes quite nicely off Dark. Yorick, I mean, we all know what lethality Yorick is like. He does a lot of damage. He has ghouls which feel really obnoxious to play against because they land on you and will do like 500 damage. Of course, this playstyle has been nerfed, but still works with Youmuu's, so it's strong, but it kind of contends with a split push Triforce build. Renekton. Lethality Renekton only really worked with Prowlers because he really valued the active on the item. Now that Prowlers has been removed, Youmuu's does function on Renekton, but I would recommend things like Stride Breaker. Stride Breaker Renekton is really good. You can, of course, go Gore Drinker. Youmuu's kind of contends with these options, but for the most part, you're going to go Stridebreaker on Renekton. Jace, this was his best mythic. Now that the item's been nerfed, it now contends with Eclipse. You can go both. Both hold relatively similar win rates. Both fill different niches. Eclipse more for the shield value and just the ability to disengage. And then Youmuu's for the upfront damage. You can still disengage with this item and it has stronger engage. It's very much kind of like, yeah, do you value the chase and do you value the disengage, the shield, and more of the armor pen, or do you just value the raw upfront damage and the chase? And then you could kind of pick your options through that. The two champs to buy S tier are Graves and Riven. Graves, really good with the item. I think it's his best mythic by an absolute landslide at the moment, but things like Triforce can work on Graves, just don't have a lot of games at the moment, so it's really hard to tell how strong this item actually is on him. A lot of people have been testing Triforce on a lot of champions, but Graves can work with Triforce. We just haven't seen a lot of games. You can, of course, go like your Gold Drinker builds, but they just don't perform anywhere near as strong as Youmuu's at the moment. Be interested to see where Duskblade Graves lands, but as of the moment, Youmuu's is his best option. And Riven, Ravenous into Youmuu's, kind of similar to Kled, is just absurdly strong. She does really well with this item. On Youmuu's, when we had the previous iteration of Youmuu's, Riven was the best abuser of the item as like a second option. When you went Ravenous into Youmuu's, she was able to do so much with the item. It did a lot of damage. She had really good chase. Just the raw amount of AD it provides with how strong Riven's AD ratios are. All of that was so valuable for Riven. Yeah, the item was really good on her. Of course, you could still opt to things like Gold Drinker, Stridebreaker, Eclipse. All these options do work. I'm pretty sure Eclipse is her favorite mythic at the moment, but definitely consider giving Youmuu's a try. It looks really strong. From what I've heard, it's really strong. So it might be worth testing. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Youmuu's after it's been put in a more balanced state. We'll see if it gets buffed, nerfed, whether they like it as it is at the moment. There are still changes happening in the game. They are still adjusting things. We're going to have a couple adjustments next patch towards like Lucian and Rumble, but I don't see either of these champs running it, so we should be good. So yeah, thank you guys for checking out. See you in the next one. Goodbye.